Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well and welcome if you are new. In today's video we're going to discuss authors I want to read more of. There's obviously a lot of books out there and there's a lot of new authors releasing debut books, and I feel like you just kind of get drawn into all these new exciting books and you kind of forget to go back to authors that you've already read and loved, but you kind of miss out on their backlist because you're excited for their new releases that you just kind of never get around to their backlist. So that is what we're going to discuss today, authors that I want to read more of books I've only read one of theirs. I'm eagerly anticipating their newest release, but I kind of have forgotten about reading their backlist. I hope that made sense, but without further ado, let's just hop straight into it. The first author I would love to read more from is Atta. This is his debut novel and it came out last year, The Black Flamingo. This is about a young boy being black in his community and he's kind of struggling to find his identity and finding where he kind of fits in life until he goes off to university and he finds the drag society, and that's kind of where he really comes to be himself and really kind of starts living his life as his true self. And this book is written in verse and I love how Atta not only addresses really important topics, I just love how he's able to capture such a powerful message in such few words, and I think that's a skill that a lot of verse authors have, but Atta just has to be my favourite, and I just absolutely adored this book. I gave it 5 stars and I cannot wait to read more from him. Unfortunately, this is an author that I can't read from his backlist as he hasn't released anything else like full verse novels yet, but he does have one coming out later this year called Only at the Weekend, and I'm very much anticipating that release. So yeah, hopefully I can get to more Atta work soon. The next author I would love to read more from is Jenkins Reid. I know a lot of people on BookTube love her and love her writing and her storytelling and how realistic she makes all her stories, and I 100% agree. I read After I Do by Jenkins Reid at the end of last year and really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. What I really enjoyed about this book was the characters and the writing style and how, like a lot of people, how realistic the characters felt. However, for me, the plot itself wasn't like my favourite. I'm just not a massive fan of this kind of trope in books. And this trope is basically when a married couple separate for a while and then come back together after trying to fix their marriage. I've read a couple of books like that in the past and they just haven't kind of sat well with me. However, I did like how Jenkins Reid addresses the topics, like how people perceive love and relationships and how different people can come to their own agreements in different ways. I just really enjoyed this book, but the plot just personally wasn't for me, and therefore that's where the 5 stars kind of lacked. But I did give this a high 4 stars, and I'm intrigued to read other works from her that kind of would sit better with me, so I definitely want to read more of Jenkins Reid in the future. These are in no particular order, by the way. So the next author I would love to read more from, and just I don't know why I keep putting off his work, is Fredrick Bachman. I read 2 of his works, and Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer and Anxious People, and gave them both a raving 5-star review. I just love, once again, his writing style. I think that's going to be a common theme throughout this video, is every single author I want to read more of because I love their writing style and I love their characters, because I am such a character driven person. I say that a lot in my videos, and if you've been watching me for a while you 100% know that. But yeah, Fredrick Bachman just has a way with words that he writes in a very unique writing style. He has a very unique voice, yet he still captivates me and intrigues me, and I just want to read more of him. This is a short novella and it's about a granddad trying to explain what his mind is going through, suffering with dementia, to his young grandson, and this one just pulls at my heartstrings. And this one was just, once again, so realistic and so well written, about a bank robbery gone wrong when the bank robber runs up to an apartment viewing and keeps the apartment viewing hostage. And it's not only funny, but it's really satirical. Is that the word? What does satirical mean? I just popped that out of my brain from nowhere, but I don't even know what it means. I would say this book is quite satirical. The way he explores each individual person and about humanity and what's right and wrong. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 stars. I've given all his works I've read, the 2 of them that I have, 5 stars, and I cannot wait to read more. I think he might actually become one of my favourite authors. I have Beartown on my physical TBR to read, so this will most likely be the next book of his I get to. If you haven't seen my physical TBR video, I'll link it up above and down below for you, where I list every single book I physically own and have not read yet. So that was a wild ride. So yeah, go check that out if you haven't already. The next author I would love to get to is Renee Watson. I first discovered her work earlier this year. I read Piecing Me Together as an ebook on Scribd and fell in love with it and needed to own a physical copy. So of course I brought my own. Her books tend to be quite short, so they're perfect for readathons, or like when you just kind of don't know what to read and just want to pick up something quick and short. Yet they still pack a punch in the few kind of pages they do have. Each book tends to be around like 250 pages, like they're not big books whatsoever. Renee Watson really focuses on Black Lives Matter movement and really kind of serious topics, yet makes them easily accessible and makes them easy to understand for the younger readers, as she is predominantly a middle grade and YA author. Just loved what I read of Piecing Me Together and I cannot wait to read more. I think the next book kind of on my radar for Renee Watson is Watch Us Rise, which I'm really excited to get to. But if you didn't know Piecing Me Together, I would highly recommend. This is about our main character Jade, who kind of grows up in a poorer community but goes to a more privileged white school, and at that school they have a program to help young women, and they get given a mentor and they go and kind of do like activities and kind of groups together to just kind of help them through the rest of high school. And our main character Jade really gets on with her mentor Maxine, and Maxine really kind of guides her into being who she should be and to find her voice. But what I loved most about this book is that Jade's main interest was scrapbooking and forming different images and different messages with messages and images that have already existed. This was a massive plot point in this book, and I think it was so well done, and I haven't read anything about scrapbooking before, and it was brilliant. And I actually learned a lot in this because they focus on a lot of Black history, but in, like I said, a really accessible way, and for that I cannot wait to read more of Renee Watson because I just think she is going to become one of my favourite authors. I just really enjoyed this one and I cannot wait to get to more of her works. The next author I would love to read more from, and I didn't actually realise she had other work out until very recently, and that is Hannah Orenstein. She wrote Head Over Heels, which was one of my favourite books of last year. This is a gymnastic romance about our main character Avery, who is an ex-Olympian, but because of a knee injury she had to kind of cut short her Olympic career. So she goes back to her hometown and becomes a gymnastic coach at her local gymnasium. But she starts to fall for a coach there who is in the middle of prepping a new young female to become an Olympic champion. And the romance was just really cute. I loved it from the first page. But not only is it a cute adult romance, it also hits some serious topics. I would class this as like an issue-based romance because it hits some serious issues and trigger warnings on sexual assault for this one, because it does focus kind of heavily on the issues with elite gymnasts, the kind of whole career around gymnastics in this book. Just be wary if that's going to be a trigger for you. But I just love the way that this book didn't have any miscommunication. That is one of the things in YA romance that really kind of puts me on edge and is a massive pet peeve. I hate miscommunication, but in this one, like, the adults sat down and spoke about their issues, and for me that got a 5 stars just because there was no miscommunication. And I just loved how easy and fun and quick the writing style was in this one, and I'm intrigued to read more from Hannah Orenstein and see what else she has up her sleeve. The next author I would love to read more from, and I have no excuse as to why I haven't read more of his work, is Gale. This book came out last year and it's all about two siblings who don't kind of know each other exist because they got separated at a very young age, and the brother Noah got kind of brought up and adopted in a more privileged environment, whereas Kerry, the sister, had to struggle growing up with their mother who couldn't look after her, so she basically had to teach herself to grow up. They've come from very different backgrounds, and when they're adults they slowly find their way back to each other, and it's about long lost families, and it's just such a beautifully written book. This is one of the books I would love to reread this year, purely for the fact that I don't think I appreciated it as much as I should have when I first read it, and I would love to go back and reread it, and I probably would most likely give it a higher rating. I don't know what it is about this book, but it keeps drawing me to it. I have only read it once, but for some reason I remember liking it more than I originally rated it, and I just want to reread it and see how my views are now. But because of this, I am very intrigued to read more from Gale and see what else he has to offer. He has recently brought out a book called All the Lonely People. It has recently been 99p on iBooks and Kindle. So if you are interested in possibly picking up his work, maybe that might be a good place to start, because it is quite a cheap offer on iBooks at the minute, and I have picked it up myself. So that'll most likely be the next book I read from him. I'm just really intrigued to see what else he has to offer. I'm going to save a specific one for last, and if you know me and my channel, I think you can kind of predict which book it's going to be and which author it's going to be. But the second to last author I would like to mention is Jenn Bennett. The only book I've read from her is Alex Approximately, and I remember absolutely loving it. I read it at the beginning of last year. Jenn Bennett is like the typical YA romance contemporary writer, but she does it in such a good way, and she really takes a different angle on the typical YA book because of the interests her main characters tend to have. I don't know how she does it, but she made surfing a really cool plot point in this book, and I think that's why I kind of love it so much. If you didn't know, Alex Approximately follows our main character Bailey, who moves to a new town after her parents' divorce, and she goes to live with her dad for the summer in this kind of seaside town. But for a year prior, she's been talking to a guy called Alex online. They have never seen each other in person, they have never met, but they know everything about each other, and she is moving to the town that Alex is from. But she doesn't want to let Alex know that this is what she's doing. She wants to kind of scope him out and see how he is in real life before admitting that she's in this town and that she would like to meet him. So she moves to this town with her dad for the summer, and she picks up a job as a tour guide in the local museum, and romance ensues from there. And I just really loved how she wrote this book. It's kind of like a mystery, but not really, and I just love the aspect of surfing in this book. So if you're looking for a cute YA romance contemporary, I highly recommend Jenn Bennett. And I don't know why I haven't read more from her, because I just know that she's going to take a really cool angle with the typical book, and I feel like you'll know that I've been struggling with YA contemporary at the minute because they're all getting very samey. However, I think Jenn Bennett is the author that kind of steps out of the box and does it differently, so I should definitely get to more of her work soon. I just haven't. Some of her books are on Scribd, so I have no excuse. And then the last author I would like to read more from is George M. Johnson. Of course I have to read more from them. How couldn't I? Like, why? If you didn't know because you're living under a rock, this is my favourite book. Maybe of all time, and definitely of last year when I first read it. All Boys Aren't Blue is a memoir about George M. Johnson's life as they grow up black and queer in a minority community, and you follow them throughout their life as they grow up from when they're 5 years old all the way off to university. And it's such a beautiful book, and George M. Johnson narrates the story so well. They were a born storyteller through and through. It's incredible the way they told their own story, and it's just beautiful. Trigger warnings massively though for sexual assault, homophobia, loss of virginity and racism. They're all featured in this book, and it doesn't touch upon the topics lightly. It's a very heavy trigger warning book, so please be aware of that before you go into it. But for some reason this book just captured me from the first page, and ever since I have fallen in love with George M. Johnson. The way they narrate their own story, I just cannot wait to read more from them. And they have a new book coming out at the end of this year. I think it's in September, and it's called We Are Not Broken. And I have discussed this book before in one of my Rachel Reading Rambles videos. So if you would like to check that out, I'll link it above and down below for you guys. But I cannot wait for that release. Yeah, unfortunately, I won't be able to read any more from them until that book comes out. But I will 100% be pre-ordering it and getting that book in my hands as soon as possible. So there we have it. Those are the 10 authors I would like to read more from. There's quite a variety there, from non-fiction writers to adult contemporary, literary fiction authors, translated works, American authors and poetry writers. So I hope you've got some recommendations from me today, and if you have read any of these authors' other work and you think I would enjoy them, let me know in the comments down below which ones I should start with next, i.e. which book should I start with Taylor Jenkins Reid, because it's a minefield out there and I have no idea which one to read next, but I just know that I need to read more from them. So let me know where I should start with Frederick Bachman, Taylor Jenkins Reid, where I should start with Jenn Bennett. I think Starry Eyes is one of the books I'm interested in reading, but let me know if it's any good. Let's just have a chat down in the comments. Let me know if you've read any of the books I have mentioned today and what your thoughts are on them. Obviously spoiler free, so we don't ruin it for the rest of the readers out there. But yeah, which authors do you want to read more of? Because I know that stack for you is just as long as it is for me. And without further ado, I will leave you to it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a massive thumbs up. Subscribe down below to see future content from me. I do anything from book hauls, fun TBR games, reading vlogs, reading challenges, book tags. I do it all here, so make sure you subscribe so you never miss a thing. And without further ado, I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.